And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the interview with Dennis Dodd. Now, Dennis Dodd, graduate of Missouri. He went and joined CBS Sportsline in 1998 and has been with them covering college football ever since. He's a big fan of College World Series, so we'll talk about that a little bit. But mainly we're going to be focusing on the transfer portal, NIL, and all that stuff. It's the second episode of our talks on NIL. We're talking with analysts and with college coaches and recruiters on how NIL, how transfer portal is affecting everything. So I hope you guys like it. Now I will turn it over. This will be uploaded to my YouTube channel and to the podcast on Apple. So subscribe to both. Follow the podcast. I hope you guys have a great day. And now on to Dennis Dodd on the pod. Please subscribe.
What made you want to pursue this profession?
Well, I mean, I've loved watching sports all my life, and I've always loved the guys who commentate on it, and I want to be one of them. John Miller, I've listened to the radio. I listen to Giants radio every night, so I want to be able to do sports broadcasting.
You're at the age where I got hooked too. I was about 13 or 14, and I listened to Missouri football games. And I don't know if you remember a guy named Kerry.
I used to listen to his tapes when I was a baby.
Yeah, when you were a baby.
Yeah, I picked it out. I picked it out at the store. My mom told me instead of the Einstein stuff, I picked it out. I picked out his tape, so I just used to listen to it a lot.
He's famous for baseball, obviously. You picked it out at the Einstein store. But he did Missouri football that season. I think it was 1969 or 70. And I don't know, just painting a word picture, if you will. I mean, you know what that means. And when I got to Missouri, I went to Missouri, they gave us a choice. Like, is it, you want to do print or broadcast? And for some reason I wanted to write. And I can't explain it to this day. But it worked out. It was, I went to Missouri in, 77, graduated in 80. And, here I am. But what can I do for you? Go ahead.
You just answered it, I think. How'd you get into sports journalism?
Well, that, and I started at junior college, and got my feet wet there. Actually, that was a great way to start because I wasn't ready for the full-on 4-year college thing where you have to get in to journalism school, at Missouri. It's another level, and that prepared me I think it's like everybody else that gets into it. Journalism is the first draft of history. I love meeting people. I love talking to people that are smarter than me, or not, and then just describing it. You see things that other people don't see, especially in broadcast or print. I mean, in broadcast, you're describing a scene. Now, more and more, that's obviously all that's on television. And when you're on television, it's more challenging now to come up with something compelling and not get in the way of what people are seeing. But it was just that. My first job was, like a lot of people, started at the bottom, went to the top, or started at the bottom. I was the Sherman Democrat in Texas. It was a 2-man staff. I think we covered like 100 high schools, had to do everything, take pictures, write, do page production. And that prepared me. And I got a job covering high schools in Kansas City in 1981 and worked there for 8 years. Went from there to the ill-fated St. Louis Sun that lasted about 8 months, actually 9 months to the day. It was a tabloid kind of thing you see in like the New York Post, if you're familiar with that. and then that folded. From there, the National, you're going to have to Google that one. That was an amazing place. It was a national sports daily, and it was like 75 pages a day that you could get on your street corner, full of everything.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, check that out. Eventually ended up at what was then CBS Sportsline in 1998. A guy named Mike Kahn hired me and really covered college football since then. When I got there, I covered everything because we didn't have much staff, but now it's college football.
Nice.
So
Yeah, I work for a guy named Dave Cox, and I do stats for him, and I also write articles for the high school.
mhm.
So I'm already trying to get involved in that, and
Keep
you know,
doing
I
that. Yeah,
and I
keep doing
broadcast
that.
and I broadcast games at the Healdsburg High School, which is right down the street from my house. So I do
Good.
baseball and basketball there, eventually football, hopefully.
Yeah, if you want to do broadcast, get a reel. Do anything you can. I remember doing American Legion games on tape when I was trying to get into that part of it. Anything you can do. Don't be afraid to get in front of people. Try to meet John Miller, and maybe you
Uh,
have. I don't know.
no, I haven't. But I do read the Wall Street Journal every morning, and I've talked to Jason Gay, who writes. I think he writes weekly sports
Yeah,
there. So I've talked to him and reached out to him and interviewed him, and it's really cool seeing how you guys work, and I really look forward to hopefully doing it when I'm older.
I think it's a vocation to me instead of a job, because I know it sounds hokey, but there's a higher calling to some of this. Um, I know in broadcast, I've heard the story time after time of the 90-year-old shut-in who that's their only connection to the game or the team. Um, they look forward to that once a day. Now, obviously, these days, everybody's watching on their phones or whatnot, but I think that still applies. Um, and in our industry, newspapers are, sort of dying, but they're transitioning to online.
Hmm.
And I hope newspapers never go away because I love
Yeah, me too.
newspapers. Yeah. So yeah, um, I'm trying to think. Yeah. So you're going. You said you're going to Missouri for a visit.
I hope to. I don't know
Yeah.
if it'll be next year or the following, but I definitely want to get it on the calendar.
Yeah.
I
No,
was going to
that's good.
ask you about Columbia and how what was your experience there?
Well, I'm from St. Louis, so it wasn't that big of a culture change. I was 2 hours away from my family, but it's just a Midwest town that, I mean, the journalism school has people literally from all over the world. Forget around the region. I had a guy in my class from Hawaii who, like, I guess to salute Hawaii, he wore a Hawaiian shirt to school every day, even when it was 20 degrees. That's who he was. And it's a great exchange of ideas and people and doing things. No, you'll like it. I mean, I don't know. You're gonna have to check. I don't know what the entry requirements are these days into the journalism school. I know the editor of the it was the only student run uh, daily that was attached to a school in the country. The Columbia Missourian, Mike Knisely's the sports editor. They do a good job. The thing about Missouri, and you find it out if you go there, or Northwestern or Stanford or some of these other places,
Yeah,
that
Northwestern and USC, Stanford on my list.
USC, yeah, is you're going to get real world experience, and a lot of it is sink or swim. Uh, but that's to your advantage. You're going to be ready to go into the job market when you get out of school. You're going to know, you're going to be accomplished. You're going to have a reel. You're going to have people behind you. Um, you're going to have references, and that's good. I think, that it's extreme. There's a lot of pressure. It's extremely tough, but it's supposed to be tough. That's the real world. I think too many, at least from what I've observed, too many kids come out of school thinking, they ought to be on third base with a triple, where sometimes you have to, work your way up, and that's tough. This isn't a business where you necessarily get rich. You can, but it's not like studying to be a hedge fund guy, if you know what I mean. Well, it sounds like you're doing all the right things.
Thank you.
Doing this, you have this experience on your resume. You're using it to enhance your prospects. And I want to say podcasts are the future, but because they're all over the place now. But if you can monetize it, then you can make money from it. It gets to be known more. You get a sponsor. Then it's on Apple. It may be on Apple now, is it?
I'm gonna upload it. This would be my first episode ever uploaded to Apple. I'm also uploading it to YouTube. So it's my own channel.
Wow, that's great. Well, that's the way to do it. I mean, you're doing the right thing. I wouldn't be afraid to reach out to some of the deans of these journalism schools to be on, or some people like me, people more accomplished and famous than me, to be on, to enhance the site and give you advice. So yeah, I think you're doing all the right things at a young age. You're taking visits, you're getting out there, you're meeting people. Obviously you've got the technological part nailed down. So yeah, I think you're doing well.
Thank you. What was it like being FWAA president?
I did that for a year in 2006, and it's a 1-year term. Trying to remember, it was a while ago, and I've been involved in it for a while. It was fun. The best part was at the end of the year, you get to go to all the award shows, because the FWAA is involved in, I think, the Bednarik, which is the National Defensive Player of the Year award. That was in Charlotte. Got to go to a couple different ones. The ESPN award show, which then was in Orlando, I think, at Disney World. And that puts you in touch with people in the game that you wouldn't normally see maybe during the season. So that was really rewarding. I kind of, my whole thing during the year, during my career, is just pushing more access. I'm sure you don't remember this. There was a time when every locker room was open after games, and now there's only a couple. I think Miami and in college football, not even Miami, but UCLA and maybe Pittsburgh or Wake Forest or something like that. USC used to be open, where you got the best stories. That's what's part of the profession. You get the raw, unfiltered emotion right after the game, good and bad. I think that's what you're connecting those people to the public, and that's what matters. So it was good. There's been many, many more before me and after. Right now we have, I think, our first female president, or just got done with our first female president, Kelly Whiteside, who used to work at USA Today and is very, very accomplished.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen some of her articles.
Yeah, she's great.
She's a good writer. Yeah.
Yeah, she really is. So trying to push for more inclusion of women, because I think there was a really good, ESPN has this 9 for Title IX series on, and they're doing a series on the first women sports writers. And it's really good how they were discriminated against and harassed in locker rooms. And now you don't even notice and think. And they've done tremendous work, great work in our profession. I thought during COVID, and this has nothing to do with your question, there was great journalism, sports journalism all over the place. because you had to pivot and become an amateur epidemiologist, for lack of a better term. So yeah, it's golly, that was 16 years ago now, but that was a fun year.
Getting into college football, we've seen a lot of coaching changes, but one of the only hires that absolutely shocked me was Notre Dame hiring Marcus Freeman from the inside. It was an inside hire instead of going out and hiring a coach from a group of 5 school or from another Power 5 school like USC did. But how do you think this will affect Notre Dame as they keep it more, they keep the culture inside, they keep it more Notre Dame centered, and, you know, instead of having a major culture change, they focus on Marcus Freeman and they focus on the team?
Yeah, I just wrote about this. I met Marcus last month. By the time it happened, I don't know if it was so much of a shock because Brian Kelly left just about a week before Selection Sunday in December last year, or at late November. And they really had few other choices. He had only been there a year, but had become an accomplished defensive coordinator at Cincinnati, had developed a great relationship with the players and was recruiting great. He's a tireless recruiter.
Oh yeah, he's been doing incredible for them.
Yeah, and so, you know, Notre Dame has elevated coaches that were first-time head coaches, not with success all the time. Jerry Faust, Bob Davie, Charlie Weiss, those type of guys. But this seems different to me. He's 36 years old, so I think he's the second youngest coach, at least in Power 5. But he kind of gets it. Now, I don't know what kind of coach he's going to be, which is kind of the point of the whole hire, but he embraces the Notre Dame culture, academics, which you have to there, the recruiting. In fact, he changed back to mass on game days. That's a Notre Dame tradition that Brian Kelly got away from for whatever reason. So he gets that. I was at a alumni stop in St. Louis with him, and he wowed the room. Again, he's coached one game. They lost to Oklahoma State in Fiesta Bowl. I don't know what kind of coach he's going to be. I think he's going to be solid. It's been proven there with Brian Kelly that you can be a national factor and get to the playoff. I think the question for Notre Dame is, can they take the next step within the playoff? But you know what? That's kind of the question for 120 other teams not named Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, or Clemson, or Oklahoma. So we'll see. I think they're in good hands right now.
Do you think we'll see a more USC-dominated Pac-12 with Lincoln Riley, or will we continue to see Oregon and Utah on top now that Dan Lanning has taken over and Mario Cristobal has left?
Well, it needs a dominant team or two, and I don't have to tell you that hasn't happened. 5 years outside the playoff, 17 years without a national championship. You know, the drumbeat on the Pac-12 is by November 1st, everybody's got at least 2 wins and they're out of the championship race. So the Pac-12 needs a dominant team or two. But yes, I wrote about this last week as well. USC has to be at the head of that. They're the flagship school of the conference. They have the most resources. You saw or read what they paid for Lincoln Riley. They shot for the moon and got their guy. I don't know how many other schools in that league would have the resources to do that. They're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on facilities. They're paying their coordinators and assistants top dollar. So they're much like Miami, another private school, in that they're going for it. You know, they have, in their way, figured out this is the best way to become relevant again. You know, did they hang on to Clay Helton too long? That's a discussion point. But I think the bigger one is they now have a philosophy, a target, something, something they want to go for, and they're showing that nationally. So yeah, USC realizes that the Pac-12 has to get better. It also realizes that it probably has to happen with USC carrying the conference on its back.
Yeah, I've watched USC football all my life. My first great quarterback that I ever watched was Matt Barkley.
Yeah,
and that was
I
my
know him
first
and his
ever
family
jersey.
very well. Yeah.
Oh, nice. That was my first ever jersey. I sent him a card because he broke his, I can't remember if it was his shoulder or his thing or his elbow. And I sent him a card and he sent a jersey back. And he was definitely probably my favorite quarterback over the past 10 years watching
Yeah.
them. My dad went there. He graduated in 95
Oh,
out of
okay.
Marshall. And I mean, I watched Lincoln Riley's press conference. I'm psyched that we got him. And, I'm looking forward to watching him. But Utah, Whittingham has in my mind over the past 10 years, Whittingham has been the best coach in the Pac-12.
Yeah. Well, Oregon has been to the championship game, 4 years in a row, and I think won 2 of them. So that can't be dismissed what Mario Cristobal has
Yeah,
done.
Cristobal's been great.
Yeah, and obviously Utah is the defending champ. All this USC talk, they still were 4-8 last year, and that's going to be quite a leap to get to the top of the Pac-12. Not saying they can't, but I don't think there's enough written on covered on Utah, with what Kyle Whittingham has done. And again, another first-year coach at Oregon, Dan Lanning. So we'll see. There's some depth there, but again, somebody or some number of teams have to stand out.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on NIL, especially seeing that Ryan Day has commented that he's going to need $13 million from boosters to keep the team. But what are your thoughts on NIL, and will it lead to the changes in which teams are dominant in the scape of college football?
Well, we're coming up on the year anniversary, and yeah, it's much of it has been the wild, wild west. But a cut to the chase, I keep telling people, I think in 2 or 3 years, we're not even going to be thinking about it or talking about it. This is going to be the way of the world. What hasn't happened is, number one, it hasn't diminished interest in the game at all. It hasn't made the competitive balance any different. Alabama's still really good, and Akron isn't. NIL hasn't had anything to do with that. So we're left with, a snit between Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher over who's doing what. Do these players deserve it? Absolutely. Does the NCAA deserve blame for letting it get like this? Absolutely. But I think it's here to stay. And in regards to the Ryan Day comments, I was encouraged because, number one, I think the $13 million figure, I think he was speaking to his boosters, saying this is what we need to compete. If you want to establish a collective or contribute. Number two, what I've always said, one of the reasons I said this thing will settle out in 2 or 3 years is a market will be established. You won't see this money thrown around willy-nilly, for the simple fact that not every player is going to pan out. So if he's saying quarterbacks are 2 million and offensive linemen and edge rushers are 1 million, well, that establishes a floor for a market. And democratic economies, operate on capitalism and market not market share, but market influence. And so, left to its own devices, that may be what it is, that this position is worth X. You've got the outlier, like the kid at Tennessee, Nico Iamaleava.
He's awesome.
Who signed a 3-year contract worth $8 million. But what if he doesn't pan out? What if they don't win the SEC with him?
That's
what
true.
If he's,
I don't know if they're going to win the SEC in the next 4 years.
Yeah, and Tennessee hasn't won anything for a period of years. There's a lot on him. I think he's a canary in a coal mine. Test case. Is anybody worth that money?
I think them signing him was just him trying to get kids to Tennessee. Because he's been basically one of their recruiters. He's been getting in the comments I've seen on Instagram posts, like on four-star guys, when they've made their visits to Tennessee. He's been getting these guys in there, and he's been at every visit just taking pictures with these guys. I think Francis Maoga, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. The offensive lineman, I believe, out of IMG, he's been trying to pull him to Tennessee. He's been mainly a major recruiter there.
Yeah, which has been done for years, or way before NIL. So, so I think I'm not I don't think the world's coming to an end.
Hmm.
There is a phrase going around from a lot of coaches who have accepted this new culture, transfer portal, one-time transfer, and NIL, where they just say adapt or die. They have
Hmm.
accepted that this is the way it's going to be. If the biggest um, complaint I hear from coaches is roster management. Well, if you're making $9 million a year and that's your biggest complaint, cry me a river. Give me the $9 million. I'll figure out how to populate my roster. In fact, Lincoln Riley has given us a roadmap. He flipped half the USC roster in 6 weeks, and that was before uh, getting Jordan Addison, the receiver. So
Hmm.
it can be done. It's not something Lincoln Riley wants to do every year, but you could tell by how he operated, he had thought about it. He had a plan. He knew how to operate within the portal, and to have USC behind you is obviously huge. So I think you're looking at college athletics, what it's going to be.
What do you think about the conference realignment and the alliance between the ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12?
Yeah, the alliance, I'm not really sure what it is. They haven't defined it, and that's from last July or August. I guess they could play some non-conference games together. It turned out to be sort of a voting block against the SEC when it came time to vote for the playoff, the expanded playoff, and all that. The course of really college athletics changed when last July 21st, when Oklahoma and Texas, the word leaked out that they were going to the SEC. As far as realignment, I don't think it's done. I think because of the TV deals that are going to be signed in the next 3 years, everybody's looking for safe harbor before all these leagues are locked up for a long time in their deals. And I think there could be some possibly massive shifts in membership. You have to understand that the SEC and Big Ten are in a couple of years going to have projected per team payouts of 100 million per team. That's unheard of, and that's going to lap conferences like the Big 12 maybe by 3 or 4 times. And what does that mean in terms of hiring coaches? I just told you what USC did in the Pac-12, hiring staff, recruiting budgets. And if the top 30 schools in the country, in terms of earning power, which they are, decide to flex in any reason for any direction, what does that mean? I don't know the answer to that.
Now speaking on that SEC realignment, how do you think Oklahoma is going to adjust with Coach Brent Venables?
I think they'll be fine. They'll definitely play better defense because he's the best at it in the country. It says something that Brent Venables, I think he's 51, for years had opportunities to leave some pretty big jobs and stayed to be the highest paid assistant in the country at Clemson. But Oklahoma, where he had a history, I think he was there for 13 or 14 years under Bob Stoops, was a perfect fit for him after Lincoln Riley left. And I think he brings stability. He, as he said many times, at Clemson, I didn't necessarily recruit against the ACC. I recruited against Georgia and Alabama because that's a de facto SEC program. And as I said, I think they'll be better defensively, which is huge in the Big 12. I'm sorry, well, and then the SEC, obviously. But I think he'll be fine.
Do you think Billy Napier and Mario Cristobal will return Florida and Miami to dominance?
Well, define dominance. They
Like
both want to win
10 win seasons
Yeah, they
every
both
year.
want to win national championships. I told you what Miami's done. They've thrown money at a problem that's been around for 20 years, how to get back to the championship hunt, and they think this is the best way to go. I do, because Mario Cristobal is somewhat of a proven commodity. Billy Napier is 41 years old and just setting out on the biggest part of his career. He gets it. I know him. I think he's good. You can't, if the state of Florida gets good again, that's going to be fantastic. Florida State's going to have to catch up. UCF's going to the Big 12, so that's huge. So, yeah, 10-win seasons. Yeah, absolutely.
Arch Manning is the top recruit in the 2023 class and has been predicted to go to Texas by on 3. But Texas already has 4-star 2022 quarterback Malik Murphy and also has Hudson Card and Quinn Ewers due to the transfer portal. What do you think will unfold if Arch Manning does commit to Texas?
Well, Card and Ewers, I think, are going to be gone by 23 anyway, so they're not in the mix. I'm not a big recruiting guy, and I think this could change 5 different times before it eventually happens. So that the Texas projection is just that right now. I have no reason to know if it's accurate or not. I mean, we're talking about, his last name is what's so sexy. Apparently he's very, very good, but I did a story a few years ago where I went back 10 or 12 years and looked at the top 5 quarterbacks in each recruiting class. And it was like less than 60% of them even started for a full season at the school they signed with. So, and again, in this either I'm starting or departing era, that's something to look at. And if he's any good at all, he's only going to be there 3 years. So I think it's a fascinating story that, he comes from this incredibly talented family, is a quarterback. I think he's the son of Cooper, who never played. And interestingly enough, he's funny as heck, but, because of physical setbacks, couldn't play. But he's apparently the real deal. But projecting where, how he's going to fit in, 14 months from now, perhaps, is, I think, looking too far ahead.
Do you think Card or Ewers will start?
Well, I think Ewers will start. He didn't go there to sit on the bench. He did his internship or whatever you want to call it at Ohio State. I don't know why Card stayed, but good for him for having the loyalty there to compete. Ewers is that guy. He's the 5-star guy. Ewers went to Ohio State to take advantage and graduated early to take advantage of his NIL opportunity. Saw 4 snaps. Don't know why he did that exactly, if he needed the money that bad, but here he is. But it'll definitely be Ewers. And I've got to run here. You got one more?
Yeah. What advice do you have for me and my viewers?
Oh gosh.
For sports podcasting and journalism.
Not. I want to say don't believe everything you read or hear, but I don't want to say that. I want to say vet it. Use your common sense. Think about it. Read people that you trust. Do research. It's okay to root, but look at the other side as well. And I guess I'm just talking at fans right now. We don't hate your teams. We just want to do our jobs, and we love the game just like you.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And what do you think right now about the College World Series?
I covered it for 22 straight years. I think it's great.
Yeah, I love it.
Obviously, when we tape this, there's 2 more teams that have to get in, but I think right now the biggest story is Tennessee not getting in.
I know.
One of the most dominant teams in any sport in recent memory gets knocked out on its home field and now has to live with that. That will be a story going all the way up till the first pitch on Saturday in Omaha. I'll say this again. I've said it for years. I think it's the best, not unknown championship, but, I guess minor sports championship in the country. It's on a par for me for the tournament because it's more condensed than the tournament. It's more pure than college football because these are kids, the vast majority of them, will never will never pick up a bat again after college. Same as football, but baseball is the American pastime, and Omaha is just the perfect place for the College World Series. I would urge anybody, if they have a chance to go. You won't believe it.
Thank you, Dennis.
All right, Hugo. Anytime, contact me. Anything you need, let me know about your progress.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
Have a good day.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, bye.
And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the interview. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment. And go follow Dennis Dodd on Twitter. I will include a link to his Twitter in the description of the podcast and of the video below. Thank you to Mr. Dodd for joining the podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day. Adios.